Let's talk about a force so powerful, it can either build you a fortune or lock you in debt, and it all depends on which side of it you're on. Now, it's not magic, but honestly, it's pretty close. Today, we are going to break down one of the most important concepts in all of finance, compound interest. Let's really dig in and see how this thing works.
You know, this quote, which people often say comes from Einstein, just perfectly captures the two-sided nature of compound interest. It's this financial tool that can be your absolute best friend or your worst enemy. So, let's take a look at both sides of this very powerful coin.
All right, let's start with the fun part. How to make compound interest work for you. This is where you literally put your money to work, letting it grow all by itself. I mean, this is the bedrock of long-term investing and building real wealth.
Okay, so the magic of compounding really shines when you put it up against simple interest. With simple interest, you earn the exact same chunk of cash year after year. It's predictable, but kind of boring. But with compound interest, well, you start earning interest on your interest, and that tiny difference, that little phrase, changes absolutely everything.
And right here, you can see that interest on interest in action. Just look at that interest earned column. Year 1, you make a solid $1,000, but by year 2, you're making $1,100. Why? Because you're earning interest on that first $1,000 you already made. Now, fast forward to year 10, you're pulling in over $2,300 in interest in just 1 year, and it all started from that same initial $10,000. That's the snowball effect right there.
But here, this is where we see the most critical ingredient of all, time. After 10 years, your money more than doubles. That's awesome. But just look what happens after 40 years. That original 10 grand, it just explodes to over $450,000. The growth isn't a straight line, you see. It's a curve that gets steeper and steeper and steeper. And this, right here, is the difference between a comfortable retirement and, well, not.
Okay, so we've seen the dream, but remember that quote? There's another side to this coin, and the very same force that can build you a fortune can also dig a hole of debt so deep it feels impossible to climb out of, especially with things like high-interest credit cards.
So when you owe money, compound interest is working against you. The lender charges you interest not just on the money you first borrowed, but on all the unpaid interest that keeps piling up month after month. This is exactly how a small credit card balance can spiral completely out of control, especially if you're only making those minimum payments.
All right, now that we get the why this is so powerful, let's peek under the hood at the how. We're going to break down the actual formula that makes all this happen, so you can see exactly which levers are pulling the strings.
Now wait, don't let this formula scare you. I know it looks complicated, but I promise it's really just a recipe with a few key ingredients. We're going to walk through each piece one by one, and you'll see it's actually pretty straightforward.
First up is P for principal. Think of this as your starting line. It's the $10,000 in our investment example, or it could be the balance on your credit card. It's simply the base amount that everything else is going to grow from.
Next, we've got R, the annual interest rate. This is the speed. This is how fast your money grows. A higher R means faster compounding, plain and simple. Just remember, for the math to work, you always have to convert the percentage, like 10%, into a decimal, so 0.10.
Okay, this one, N, is really important. It's the compounding frequency. Is your interest calculated just once a year, or is it calculated every single month, or maybe even every day? The more often it compounds, the faster your money grows.
And finally, we have T for time. And as we saw in that crazy bar chart a minute ago, this might just be the single most powerful variable in the entire equation. The more years your money has to sit there and compound, the more incredible the results will be.
So let's see how this actually plays out. The power of N, that compounding frequency, it's subtle, but it's really significant. Look at the difference between compounding just once a year versus every single day. Over 10 years, daily compounding gives you almost $200 extra without you lifting a finger. It might seem like a small edge, but over a few decades, those small edges add up to a lot.
Okay, we know what it is, we know how it works, so now for the most important step. How do we make sure this incredibly powerful force is always on our team, always working for us, and never ever against us? Let's look at some simple, actionable strategies.
You know, it really just boils down to these three things. First, start early. Seriously, the earlier the better. That gives time in our formula its maximum power. Second, be consistent. Just keep at it. Regular contributions, regular payments. That keeps the engine running smooth. And finally, you have to attack high-interest debt, like credit card debt, with everything you've got, because that's compound interest in attack mode, and it's aimed right at you.
And here's a fantastic little mental shortcut for you. It's called the Rule of 72. It's a super quick way to figure out about how long it'll take for an investment to double. So, let's say your investment is earning 8% a year. You just take 72, divide it by 8, and you get 9. That means it'll take roughly 9 years for your money to double. It's a simple little trick, but it is incredibly useful.
And all of this brings us right back to where we started. Understanding this concept is the entire game. Once you truly get how that snowball of interest works, you can make sure it's always rolling downhill in your favor.
So the question for you is no longer what compound interest is, but what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to be the one earning it, patiently building wealth over time, or are you going to be the one paying it, letting debt slowly grow? The choice now is completely up to you.